What's up YouTube, this is Matt and today I've got a pretty cool video for you guys. This is a $250 budget gaming PC build that's actually in collaboration with 4 other YouTubers, Scattervolt, Nerd on a Budget, OzTalks Hardware, and Toasty Bros. We're basically trying to see who can build the best PC with used parts for a set budget, and for this initial one we have a set budget of $250. Now the rules are pretty simple. Build the best PC for $250 that can run the benchmarks and games we chose, and anything over that budget will penalize your score. We also have a guest judge, but I'll talk about that later. Now what I have, and I'm sure some of the other guys probably did, is instead of finding every single component of the PC and putting it all together, what I did was found a good base system that I could upgrade to be a beast of a gaming PC. Now doing this both saves you money, and in many cases like this one, included with the pre-built will be activated Windows pre-installed. So I began the hunt for good deals, and after watching a bunch of eBay auctions I finally found this. This is an HP Pavilion Slimline which I got for only $69 with free shipping from eBay. This PC had everything except for a GPU and adequate power supply. Now because this was a slimline unit, I thought I would need to get a different case to accommodate an ATX power supply and full-size GPU, but as you'll see in a minute, I actually stuck with the stock case so that I could get as much performance for my money as possible. In terms of specs, this PC came with an Intel Core i5-2400S, which is a slightly underclocked, lower power version of the i5-2400. The CPU has a base clock of 2.5 GHz and can turbo up to 3.3 GHz. This is being cooled by a very basic aluminum heatsink, which actually does a pretty good job and stays fairly quiet. For RAM, the system came with two 4GB sticks of DDR3 RAM for a total of 8GB of RAM, which is the ideal amount for an entry-level gaming PC. The HP system came with a 250GB Western Digital Blue drive, which was plenty of space for the OS and all of the games and benchmarking software with plenty of space left over. For the motherboard, the system has a generic HP M-ATX motherboard that is a full-size PCIe 16X slot, which is exactly what I needed for the GPU. Speaking of the GPU, which took up the majority of the budget, I went with the new GTX 1060 3GB card, which I picked up for just under $170 from jet.com, which is an amazing deal for this card. It does feature a very basic cooling system with no copper to be found, but it does get the job done and is amazing for the price. For the power supply, I got a 450 watt Cooler Master power supply from eBay for $8.29 including shipping, which is a very good deal, and even though it wasn't modular at all, I still was able to get okay cable management that allowed for adequate airflow. Also, this system was running Windows 10, which came pre-installed on the HP Pavilion. With all the parts in hand and no room left in the budget for a case, I had to figure out how I was going to fit all of this in the case. I began by removing the old small form factor power supply from the pre-built, as it didn't have enough power for the system and was just taking up valuable space. Something I found out by eyeballing where things could go is that an ATX power supply has a very similar footprint to that of a 5¼ inch drive. So what I figured I would do is put the PSU where the 5¼ inch optical bay currently was. To do this, I had to drill out a couple of rivets to remove the bay carriage, which allowed the power supply to fit snugly in place. Now to fit the GPU, I had to do a few things. The first was break off part of the PCIe cover on the case. I did this by twisting it back and forth with pliers until it broke. Then, for whatever reason, the card was still not fitting, so what I had to do was remove the I/O shield on the GPU, and then it was able to fit into place. I wired everything up, powered it on, and it worked. At this point, I had a fully functioning Windows 10 gaming PC. Now the lid can't fit on anymore, and sitting it on the side isn't really a very good option, so it has to live laying flat without a cover, but this seemed to work just fine. In terms of benchmarks, we decided to go with 5 different tests, 2 games and 3 synthetic benchmarks. We all made sure to use the same settings so that results could be compared across all of our systems. The first test was Cinebench R15, and this PC actually didn't perform as well as I was seeing other PCs with the same CPU perform. The CPU score was 375 and the OpenGL score was 85.2 FPS. The next test was Unige in Heaven. This is a purely graphical test, and this system with a GTX 1060 was able to pump out a score of 2161 with an average FPS of 85.8. Next came Firestrike. This system got a 3D Mark score of 7,940, the graphics score was 11,930, and the physics score was 5,689. For GTA 5 with these settings, running the built-in benchmark, the system was able to achieve an overall average of 83.4 FPS with a minimum of 21 and a max of 128. The final test was Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. With the high preset on the built-in benchmark, the system was able to push out an impressive 100.94 FPS average with a minimum of 66 and a max of 162. Overall, I'm very impressed with the performance of the system, especially for the $250 price point. Now ideally, I would have went with a more powerful CPU to pair with the GTX 1060, but for what it is, the 2400S did a decent job of keeping up. I think this system will be hard to beat and can't wait to see all of the other builds by Scattervolt, Oztarks Hardware, Nerd on a Budget, and Toasty Bros. Also, as I teased in the intro, we've got a pretty awesome judge for this who is also a YouTuber who many of you more than likely already know, and that's Brian from Tech City, so definitely go over to his channel and subscribe so you can see the final video when that comes out. Also, when you're done watching this video, make sure to check out all the other builds. Links will be in the description down below. So yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed this video because I certainly enjoyed making it, and if you did, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up, as well as consider subscribing for more PC and tech related content in the future. And as always, this is Matt from Tech by Matt, signing out.